What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome back to the Sooner Surge. Double trouble for you on this Monday night. Nice warm weather here. I got shorts on for the first time this year. Great day. And we got some great conversation tonight that we'll be discussing. First off, thanks for joining us. Chester says, who cares about the Heisman? Natty, Boomer Sooner for life. That's right. Hey, right now, not a whole lot going on in sports. This, to me, is one of the slowest months in sports. February, man. Other than Super Bowl, it's pretty slow. But appreciate you guys joining us tonight. Jeremy, what's going on? How are you?
Not much, Chester. I agree with you, Chester. I could really give a rip about the Heisman as well. It is an interesting conversation piece. Every Sooner fan would trade a national title in. I mean, they would trade a Heisman for a national title, not even close. Damon, I agree with you. I think this is one thing that's maybe possibly going to hinder DG. But again, interesting conversation piece.
How are you tonight, Cody? And hey, the conversation too, I think you can look at it and think, is there a better chance that neither of them make it or they both make it?
Neither.
Probably. Yeah, because you think there's no shot DG gets a chance, correct?
I never said no shot. I just don't think he's going to be there, dude.
Yeah, I mean, he does have an easier schedule, but I agree with, I think it was, who was it, Damon, that said the health thing. That's the thing. How many games might he miss if he, he's never, even at OU, he didn't make it through every game without, I mean, he got injured both years. So who knows? And I'm kind of over the Heisman. And because I think it's so much depends on what your team does. And also it's basically turned into a quarterback award.
No, it's turned into a quarterback on maybe the best team award. But last year, Daniels won it and wasn't on the best team. But Sooner fan, I agree. Playoff appearance, I would take a playoff appearance any day over a Heisman trophy. Now,
for sure.
Dalpost 83 wants a Nagurski award. Yeah, take one of those.
I would too.
Jen says Jackson will make it before he's done at OU, he'll be in New York. But I think
let me say this. Dillon Gabriel, we've talked about this. He had an outstanding year at Oklahoma. I mean, outstanding last year. I think it's going to be hard to reciprocate that next year. Personally.
Yeah, he's not putting better numbers.
It's hard for him because he's in a new offense and he's at a new place and it's his first year. Got to learn everything with everybody. I think it's going to be hard to reciprocate that. Now, the same hand, I think Jackson Arnold being basically his first year of starting will have a tough year getting there because he's going to probably have a few games where there's growing pains. I mean, that's my think about before the season. Sooner fan, I have no clue on this. I cannot answer this for you.
There is truth. It's a rumor, Jay. There's truth because there's no truth to it. But the only thing, it's dumb that people talk about something like this.
Well, if you would let me finish talking every once in a while, it'd be great, but you can't.
Sorry.
I was going to say, go back last year, rumors and stuff about when he would play, if he would play. And did he not play right away last year? We were all like, whoa, he's already playing. So I think whatever you're hearing, until it comes from Jacob Lacey or Brent Venables, I'm going to chalk it up to no clue of what's going on. Okay? That's just me.
Chester, how is OU constantly taking transfers who are injured? And Jacob Lacey actually was way better than most people thought he would be last year, Chester.
Greg got says DG is experienced and has weapons in Oregon too, plus easy schedule. Not that hard to see him in New York City. I think if you're going to take him or Arnold, he has more things in his favor to get there. Would you agree with that, Jeremy?
That Gabriel does?
Gabriel has more things in his favor for get there. It's an easier road, I think, for Dillon Gabriel. If you
want to say it's an easier road, yes, but that doesn't mean he's getting there. And I actually agree with the Texas fan here a lot because
What's up,
DG,
Hookem?
yeah, Hookem, you're right. If Arnold gets time to throw the ball, he's going to put up DG numbers or better next year. He's going to make way more wow plays, and he's going to be on OU in the SEC. So if they win, it's going to be elevated enough. DG, like you said, Jay, I don't think he can put another year like he didn't make it last year, and he was phenomenal.
And here's what you have going for you if you're Jackson Arnold is you're in the SEC, you're playing elite competition, and we've talked about this. There's probably going to be multiple teams with 2 to 3 losses in that conference. So, I mean, where's it going to come from, the Heisman this year? I mean, there's going to be a team maybe in the Big 12 that has some guy that just tears it up and runs through the Big 12 undefeated or 1 loss probably and make it there.
Mez says Dante Moore could be before DG. And also, Jonathan says DG had weapons around him in Oklahoma, but couldn't get past first 3. Yeah, it doesn't matter how good the weapons are if you don't make it past that first one. Greg God, I don't think they're going to allow Jackson Arnold to run.
They'll allow him to run. That's a stupid comment. Hey, Greg God.
What's a stupid comment?
That's a stupid comment. Let me answer Greg God's question.
No, tell me how it's stupid to say they're not going to allow Jackson Arnold to run as much.
They're not going to allow him? Allow him?
Yeah.
Okay, whatever.
They're not going to call many running plays.
You don't need to call many running plays. He might just take off running is what I was going to get into is Jackson Arnold will be a better scrambler than Dylan Gabriel and thrower on the run. Yeah. And when the guy gets out of the pocket, he may run for 20 yards. So I'm going to answer, yes, he will be in that aspect. I don't think Dylan Gabriel at Oklahoma used his legs as much as we hoped he would. Now, there were times, go back to the Texas game, that basically won him the game the way he did with his legs. But then you didn't see it much a lot of other games. So it was weird. It was a weird thing. I don't know. Jackson, this is a great question, Jackson. What position group is more deep, safety or wide receiver? They're both very deep rooms. I would say, man, that's a tough question. I think safety, I think receivers more deep, but I think safety, maybe their top 2 or 3 are stronger, if that makes sense.
That makes some sense. Jen, I'm all for Jackson Arnold running. I think he's going to be unbelievable if he gets to run the ball. I just don't know how much they're going to want him taken off. And here's my concern, everybody. Here's my concern. If they say, hey, we don't want you taking off a whole lot, to me, you cannot do that to a guy like him. I think it hinders him more than it helps.
You can't even have that.
Say you have free reign to play.
You cannot have that thought in your head that we don't want you running. You can't even throw that out there. I mean, that's stupid. That's why I said that's a
I hope they don't, Jay. They've done it in the past.
That's why I said that's a stupid comment by you, just saying they're not going to allow him to run. That's dumb.
They've done it in the past, Jay.
I mean, I don't care. That's one of the most.
They did it in the bowl game.
That's one of the most ignorant things you've ever said, probably.
Oh, please. They did it in the bowl game.
I don't know. The video just started over for me. I don't understand that. What happened there? If anybody else having that problem.
They did it in the bowl game.
Different.
What do you mean different?
They didn't have anybody to back him up in the bowl game. Who was going to be Booty going there?
Who's it going to be? Casey Thompson.
Okay, but you can't play like that and you can't coach like that.
I agree, Jay. I'm just letting you know they've done it in the past. They did it with Kyler Murray. They've done it with a lot of.
Okay, but when you say allow, what I'm saying is, yes, they probably won't call a whole lot of running plays. That's not what I'm saying. But he will take off running, and you can't say, we don't want you to take off running. That's dumb.
Eric says DG's numbers are comparable to Jason White when he won the Heisman. You mean word comparable? Yeah.
So Eric, one thing I'm confused about. So you're saying that you think Oklahoma will be 8-4 next year? Because I thought you were saying maybe 10.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, Eric's been saying 9-3 is the worst they better be.
Eric, are you thinking it's going to be 8-4? Is that kind of what you're thinking next year?
Yeah. Jay Jones, obviously, Jackson Arnold's not as elusive as Kyler Murray. Not even a close. Kyler Murray was different, man.
Yeah, that's a good point, Alan. He can take punishment. I mean, he's a bigger guy.
And so many injuries these days, non-contact.
Yeah. That's right. Colin, look at this. Colin goes to class with Arnold. Academic weapon.
Hey,
Nice.
Eric says they should be 10-2, but I think they'll go 8-4. And I think you're implying, Eric, that they're going to go 8-4 due to bad quarterback play. Is that what I'm hearing?
Oh, this is a great question.
I am, Jay.
I am 100% for Mike's in the helmet. If you do it in the NFL, why not do it in college? I don't understand.
Yes.
I don't understand it. Why would you not do it in college?
I agree.
I mean, that's stupid. They should be doing it. Hit the like. Appreciate it. Name the 4 losses, Mess says. Eric, name the 4 losses you're thinking. That's a great
Probably
point.
Texas, Ole Miss, LSU.
And he's saying offensive line is the reason he's thinking 4 losses, which is, I mean, Ron thinks 8-4 sounds about right.
Hey, let me ask you this, Jay. Is 8-4 in the SEC the same as 10-2 this last year?
Jeremy, I don't care what it's comparable to.
I'm just asking a question.
I'm going to be very disappointed if it's 8-4. Colin, here's Jackson Arnold's strengths and weaknesses, in my opinion. Strengths, cannon of an arm, accurate. I think he's kind of got that mojo as a quarterback. I think he's mobile enough to make plays when you need him. His throwing on the run is outstanding. He's really good at throwing on the run. Just go back to the Arizona game in the bowl game. He's running to his left, throws a dart into the end zone for a touchdown. Probably the most prolific highlight from a quarterback we saw last year in a game. So those are the positives. Negatives, I think turnovers. And I'm going to say it because I think he's got a little bit of Brett Favre in him where he's going to throw it in the spots that are tight. He knows he can make that throw, and he can make the throw. But there's going to be times where you know you can make it, and a guy makes a play on it, and you get it intercepted. And I think that is my biggest concern is ball control safety with him. That would be my biggest concern. Because I think he's super talented, and he knows he can fit it in there. Whereas other quarterback, Dylan Gabriel, that we have on the graphic here, would not just risk it. I think Arnold will. And this is another point. Jimmy's got a good point here. I think he's very good at getting out of the pocket, but I don't think he's played enough where he feels the presence.
I want Jimmy and I want Jason, Jimmy's and Jason's, to go back and watch the bowl game. And I want you to watch listen to me right now. Don't interrupt me. It was a horrible offensive line unit. I want you to go back. If anyone watched the bowl game, I'm sure about 79 of you did. Go back and watch it. Do you know how many plays, Jay, Dylan Gabriel would have been sacked and Jackson on all he did was move a little to the side and stayed in the pocket?
Yeah,
like,
but
I watched the game.
I also know there were some times he held on the ball and took.
He would have taken. That's my point. He would have taken off if they would have allowed him to, Jay.
Yeah, and hey, by the way, Sooner fan, Hunter thinks OU is losing by 35 points. That's ridiculous.
And we'd probably win that game.
Jimmy's talking about the spring game. And that's so early on, though, Jimmy.
Spring game?
Very early.
I'm going to watch the bowl game against Arizona, a top 15 team, over a spring game.
And Eric, I think the problem with the defense was they would have games where they would just get gashed for a few times. I mean, gashed as far as like TCU is basically a whole half, okay? You can't do that. If you're a great defense, you can't do that. And when you get turnovers, you got to capitalize on it. And they would, I think, partially, I don't want to use this term, but they were sometimes, I would say, a bend, not break defense. There were times they were that way.
But I will say that number 3 in turnovers, that's a massive improvement by OU defense. And I agree, Jay, if you go back and watch the bowl game.
Jay, that's a great point.
When he got outside the pocket, the receivers didn't know what to do because they weren't used to that. They've got to work to get open because he will fit the ball in there and his eyes will be down the field.
Let me ask you this, Jeremy, and people can comment if they want on this question I'm getting ready to ask you. Try to think off the top of your head in the 2 years under Dylan Gabriel. How many times did he make a play where he scrambled and then threw it? No, I'm not talking about scrambled and ran it. Or how many times was there a play that lasted very long at all with pressure?
Not many. Texas, he scrambled and hit Stoops. Is one of the best plays he made all year.
And so that's
outside
what
of that, there weren't many.
These receivers haven't really done that, so they're going to have to be better at that. I agree.
And someone earlier said we're going to tell how good this team is after Tennessee. I'm going to say we're going to tell how good they are after their first road test in the SEC.
Auburn.
Is that the first road one? That's
Auburn.
The one that's going to tell the tale.
Yeah, because they could very easily walk into Auburn and get beat. I mean,
they might beat Texas just like they beat Nebraska 2 years ago, and like they beat I don't know, early season win last year where you thought this team could be for real.
Yeah, Sooner fan, here tomorrow it's going to be 83 for the high, 25 for the low. Okay, fun.
I don't think if OU is losing, I don't think many OU fans have them losing to Tennessee at home. If they do, then they're losing 4 or 5 games for sure.
Yeah, you got to beat Tennessee and South Carolina at home to start. I mean, you have to.
Must.
It's going to be a very long season if that's the case.
Absolutes.
And in fact, you really need to, your non-con games, your first 3 out of the book, you got teams like Tulane. You need to really not have tight games here. I know Tulane's been okay, but you got to go in and destroy some of these teams if you want to have a great year. And you need to look good doing it. Like Jackson Arnold needs to have good games to start the season. He needs to have confidence going into Tennessee, period. He can't be struggling the first few games and then expect to go against Tennessee and everything get better.
I highly doubt he's going to struggle the first few games.
No, I know. I'm just saying. Yeah,
home games are a must win.
Shane Beamer.
If South Carolina's a close game, we got problems. I mean,
here's what I'll say about Tennessee, though. The Tennessee quarterback is going to be an interesting test for Oklahoma. With them able to run and throw, it's going to be interesting. Hey, Bobby.
I'll agree with you on Houston. Tulane should be down. Tulane should be down. They lost a lot of people and their coach.
Yeah, a new coach. Houston, I would agree with. And Houston could be a game where it could be close maybe at half, but you got to win that game going away by 14 to 20 points. Because what do you think they're going to be favored by? I would say all those games are going to be favored by at least 15 points.
I was going to say 20, actually.
Yeah.
They're home games. Now, I do like
Mario Williams is there. You're right.
I do like having the Houston in the non-con because, look, it's like playing a Big 12 foe early on.
I don't like them. I'd rather have a cupcake. There's no reason to schedule any good teams in the non-con.
More valuable.
Huh?
More valuable if you win those games.
Hunter, that's not a cupcake.
It's dude. Not a cupcake.
Wow.
You're
Hunter,
wrong,
that is
Hunter.
Not a cupcake, bro.
They're a Big 12 team.
Hunter.
Like, what are you talking about, Hunter?
If a cupcake would be Maine that OU plays later in the year, that's a cupcake.
There's a lot worse Power 5 conference teams.
Yeah. How about a team like maybe Northwestern?
Guys, Houston almost beat Texas last year.
Temple, yes. Steven, you're right. Temple's a cupcake.
Temple's another one.
Temple and Maine are cupcakes. Houston is not a cupcake.
Connecticut, cupcake.
And go ask Lincoln Riley if Tulane was a cupcake 2 years ago, if you remember that opening game.
Bottom tier Power 4. Yeah, and they almost beat Texas last year, Hunter. And they got a really good coach. I don't care if yours got hurt. We're not making excuses. Jeez.
Hey, real quick, let me say this. I don't think Luttrell had – I know he didn't have everything he wanted to run in that game. I mean, it wasn't his offense at all,
They
were really limited on what they were running, I think, with Arnold.
Jay.
Yeah.
Summerall's good. Summerall's a great hire by Tulane.
Yeah, he's a good hire. I agree.
Now, if you lose to Houston and Tulane, you're in trouble. But I'm saying it's a good test to play a team like Houston instead of Furman.
And there it is. I mean, we've talked about this before, and we could talk about it probably every night from now until the season starts. The offense, where will they rank? We don't know. They're going to be pretty good, but it doesn't matter, in my opinion. What matters more is the defense and the steps they take in a positive direction. That to me is the most important, just like Mez says. That's the most important thing for this team next year with everybody you have coming back. If you're not really good on defense, this team's going to struggle. Right?
Well, that's a fact, Jay. Defense wins championships. Everyone knows the old adage, and there's a lot of truth to it. So while everyone wants to talk about the quarterback play, the offensive coordinator, what's going to happen, really it's the fact the defense should be flat out incredible.
That's right. What's up, Boom Time? Thanks for joining. Hey, that's probably the position group I'm most excited to watch in the spring game. With guys like Helms, Bauer Sharp, Devon Mitchell, Jake Roberts. I mean, those four right there, I'm super pumped to watch. And not to mention, I'm very intrigued to see what they do with McIntyre. I'm intrigued by that.
I don't know if he's going to play much. I don't look for him to get on the field. I don't look for him to touch the field, the turf. Mez, I've been saying top 78 to top 25, and people have been calling me crazy. So we'll see. People are saying that can't happen. Can't take that big of a jump.
If you jump and if OU's defense is top 20 this next year, they better be in the playoff.
Well, they need to be top 20. They're loaded. Loaded.
Hey, speaking of have you noticed something the last 3 or 4 days? And maybe Hunter could clarify this. Was it PJ's birthday, or were everybody just posting pics of him online? Did you notice it?
I didn't notice it.
I saw at least 5 OU football players put a picture of him in their story.
Maybe he's looking really good.
That's what I was wondering. Nothing has said happy birthday. So I'm wondering, like,
what do you mean you don't buy the loaded part?
He's saying, here's what Ron is saying. Yes, they're returning a lot, but are what they returning loaded? He's saying no.
Okay, well, I disagree. So
Eric says everyone gives BV credit and says year 3 is the year. This isn't Clemson. They recruited better than us, and they played in. Hey, Eric,
I'm not sure if you look at recruiting rankings, they did.
Wait a second, Eric. I mean, top 7 recruiting classes is pretty good. And yes, they did play in the ACC, and it was weak. I would agree with that, Eric.
And Eric, you say BV was getting exposed to Ohio State and LSU. Clemson also beat Bama a few times in that stretch run. Wasn't he? All I know is if you don't think we're loaded, Ron, so are we saying that the guys they have on defense aren't very good? Is that what we're saying?
Boom Time says think BV will save them for conference and still start Ford. I'm going to say this. I would be very, 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 very shocked if Trace Ford's a starter on the first game. I would be
not just shocked. I would be flabbergasted and disappointed. Average players, Ron, who are you? I want you to seriously put in the chat who's average on the defense. I can give you a couple guys who are just another guy, but for the most part, they're loaded.
I would say this, Jeremy. Yeah, I wouldn't want to know what Jeremy. If we come first game and Ford and Farouk are 2 starters, Jerem's going to lose his ever-loving mind.
Yep.
Hey, here's what I'll say, Steven. I'll say this about Trace Ford. He's better on run support, but you cannot tell me right now that you don't think PJ Adebawore should be playing over Trace Ford. In fact, I heard an interview from Trace Ford last year. He couldn't talk enough about PJ Adebawore. So, I mean, if he's talking about him, how good he is, then shouldn't he be playing?
Jay, I'm not going to sit here and bash Ford all day because you already know my thoughts on this. He needs to be in a mop-up role. He needs to be a guy who gives a breather. Ford and Farouk need to give breathers. That's what they
All right,
need
there
to
it
do.
is. So Marjorie says PJ's birthday is April 5th, according to Sooner Stats. So you know what that tells me? The 4 or 5 people that I saw post a story about him in a uniform, one, either he's having a great off season, or two, showing him some love. I don't know, but I thought it was very interesting.
Listen, Ford is not going to be processed out. Ford is a good depth guy. Steven, you're right. He's actually not a good depth guy. He's a great depth guy.
Yeah, he is.
Ford is a great depth guy, and so is Farouk. They're great depth players.
Hey, yeah. Hey, Big Orange, drop your 4th team who you play in the chat. I can't remember who you play the 4th game at your first SEC game, I believe. Let me know who that is.
I'm not going to sit here and say will transfer. I mean, it probably depends on who plays in that spring game, but
I think anybody on here that doesn't think that they're going to have a few leave are fooling themselves. They're going to have a few leave after spring. It's inevitable.
Look at that, Dowpois. I'm trying to be positive. I'm turning over a new leaf, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, that's right. And we're 7 to 10 over. We're going to add at least 2 guys I know for sure in the portal. Guys we don't expect. Yeah. Hook 'em about the cruise, but hook up with you fellas with the light. Hey, appreciate that.
It, Hook 'em horns.
Appreciate that, Hook 'em. Thanks for joining tonight. Chattanooga, NC State, Oklahoma, and something. Yeah. Well, Oklahoma on the road is going to be very tough for Tennessee, I think. So I'm picking OU on that game. I still think Tennessee gets to probably. I think Tennessee ends up 9-3 at worst. At worst.
Same. Make or break for Kinnick or McCullough. Yeah. Again, I still want to know about Harrington. I think it changes things with Harrington. I think it changes things about what they're going to do.
Yeah, possibly. Who's saying? Yeah, I don't think anybody's saying don't sleep on Stone. Who had the worst year, Kinnick or Farouk? That's Jay. I don't know. I mean, I don't think either of them would say they had good years. I think Kinnick started off pretty good, and then hit a wall, and then never really recovered from it. And Kip Lewis was playing so good. I mean, him and Stutzman, and I think Farouk. Take away Farouk's turnovers, I think you would say it was an okay year. Not good, not great. It was okay, but the turnovers made it a bad year. Period. You got to hang on to the football. You got to hang on the football. Yeah, they have not been good on the road. Jackson says, is Harrington even officially back because his waiver hasn't gotten approved apparently? Correct. Nothing's been official, Jackson. Have not heard anything. Yeah, clean up fumbles, and I agree, Purple Orca. I have him going to have a good year this year is what I picked. So we'll see.
For me, it was the fumbles and the lack of separation pretty often. But yes, he's a great depth guy.
Hey, who's got the best D line in the SEC? Georgia. I'm going Georgia. Bobby says Harrington practicing with the team, which I mean, doing all the offseason stuff, but he has not been granted officially, I don't think, anything yet. Now, I think everybody expects that's going to happen. Boom Time's preaching for you, Jeremy. That's what you've been saying.
Thank you very much, Boom Time. He's got to be right. Maybe he's not going to be an official defensive end as his title or position, but he's got to be rushing the quarterback often.
Yeah. Hey, there's only 2-3 more days in February. I'm going to drop trivia for the night. Let's look at those standings, Hunter. Before we do, look at the Fan Stop. Go to thefanstop.com. Sign up for Shirt of the Month Club. Use code SURGE. You'll get 10% off your first 3 months. They're great looking shirts. If you're an OU fan, go do it. Tennessee, I believe they do Tennessee. A lot of schools, over 50 officially licensed. Please check out the Fan Stop. Use code SURGE. Get 10% off. It says links in the description. Hunter's got all that for you. There's the trivia standings. Bobby.
It's a tight one. It's a tight one right now.
It's tight. So here we go.
Two-man race.
I'm gonna this trivia is worth 2 points. No, never mind. We're going to go 1 point for this trivia. So here's the trivia question. There's been a lot of sports movies, but there's been one actor that's played two tremendous coaches. This actor played Paul Bear Bryant in a movie and Adolph Rupp in a movie. Same actor. Who was it? Two different movies. Played Paul Bryant and
you always bash me for movie questions, and now you're taking a page.
I went with it tonight, Jeremy, okay? I went with it. Not Gary Busey. There it is. Monty got it. John Voight. Boom. John Voight, which his greatest, I loved him in National Treasure too, by the way. Let's see. What are we talking about here? I got Eric's comment. I'm trying to see what he's talking about with Kim. Says, everyone that complains about BB and his coaching staff are delusional. They dream of coaches and players that don't exist. They play too much NCAA. They want all players who are all 100 everything. And then Eric says they exist in Alabama and Georgia. Eric, Alabama and Georgia, I would say yes. When you say exist, if you look at their recruiting rankings over the last 10 years, they've been consistent 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. That's what it takes to be there. Now, Eric, you could also admit that Brent Venables in his first 3 seasons, 2.5 seasons, whatever, Oklahoma, 3 seasons recruiting at Oklahoma, he's been pretty dang good recruiting. So I think you can't just, it's not snap your fingers, one recruiting class and you're great. I think it takes probably 4 or 5 consistent recruiting classes, especially, and it's even different now with the transfer portal era, but you got to have consistency in recruiting to land teams like Alabama and Georgia did over the last 10 years. It's got to be that good where you lose the guy and it doesn't matter.
And you might want to video record this right now and take a timestamp here. I do agree with you, Eric, and I disagree with Kim that Bama and Georgia have had better players. Now, Jay, you're right. What BB has done on the recruiting side, on the defensive side of the ball specifically, he's getting OU where they need to be defensively, okay? Where they can, and he is the man on defense. Guys, the recruiting classes he has stacked 3 years now in a row is very, very consistent. It's getting to what that level is going to be.
And by the way, the Brent Venables defensive, what he's done on the defensive side for recruiting is pretty remarkable with what they were defensively when he came into Oklahoma. I mean, let's not forget that. Let's not forget how bad they were defensively. Yes, they have not made the massive jump to top 20 yet. I'm hoping it's this year. But you can also say they've gotten dudes on defense. They've gotten 5-star dudes that they were never getting. So they are on the right track there.
And I also agree with Gray God. Bama right now, with what's going to happen, we'll see. But they could be on a downward slide for a couple years.
Hey, when the king steps off his throne, the guy that's dominated recruiting over the last 10 to 15 years says bye-bye, they're going to take a step back recruiting.
Hey, yes. Okay, Ron says recruiting okay. Let's see it on the field. Ron, I agree, but you've got to play this next year. If we're not seeing some of these guys, these recruits from last year and starting to get a lot of run, and there's issues.
And Okie Long Guy, let me say this. I agree with what you're saying. I like I don't know if that's a metaphor or what, Jeremy, you'd have to tell me because I'm not very good at English, but run a hot life through butter when we enter the SEC. I'll say this. 9-3, I can handle. 8-4 at the University of Oklahoma in the SEC, can't handle that. And I won't. I won't as a fan. I don't think I can be disappointed at 8-4. I don't think there's anything wrong with me being disappointed at 8-4. It's the University of Oklahoma. They hired BB. BB wants to win championships too. You're not winning championships at 8-4. You're not making a playoff. You got to be 9-3 at least to make a playoff. You're not making one 8-4. Now, a lot of people on here think 8-4 next year. So we'll see. Yeah, it's a simile. Thanks, Purple. Appreciate it. Boom Time says some recruits stop going to events and competitions after they get the offer they want, so their rating doesn't get any higher, but can go lower. the chances of OU dropping their first game at Love Field, I'd say slim and none. Okay.
I would say
okay,
none. I wouldn't.
wait,
Why would you even
wait,
say slim? It's none.
Wait, you better get ready for 8-4 seasons. Seasons? Okay. Okie Lawn, let me say this. If they go back, if they go back to back 8-4 the next 2 years, we're probably going to have to find a new coach. I'm just telling you, like, unfortunately, 8-4 to Oklahoma, I don't think is going to cut it. Do you, Jeremy?
No, it's not going to cut it at OU. But Eric says BV shouldn't need 3. Listen, the first year, guys, Eric, the first year the cupboard was left bare, everyone said, correct? It was a debacle.
Yeah.
This is his 3rd year. I think they should make the playoff.
Yeah. And if they're not in the playoff by 25, then, I mean, with what this recruiting class they've had, I mean, at that point, you got to ask yourself, okay, if they're getting highly recruited guys, and then they're not winning and having 9-3 seasons, then you got to ask yourself about
here's
that.
what I would say. Was I disappointed in BV's first year at OU? I was very disappointed in game management. I was disappointed in game management.
Hey, real quick.
The second year, this year I was disappointed in losing the games they did, yes. But I think BV's absolutely the guy. And Eric, to say you don't agree it was Bear, and I do.
Listen.
Making the playoffs is a lot different than playing the national championship. OU should make the playoffs.
Hey,
we're
Eric,
saying that.
Eric, when I say Bear, it's because they basically had to get Dylan Gabriel the last day you could get a guy before he enrolled at UCLA. They didn't have a quarterback. I mean, they were struggling to find somebody. That when you say Bear, that's what I'm talking about. Okay, like
and Agwebu was.
And listen, it's not just Bear as in that. The culture was broke.
Grinch defense was awful.
The culture was so bad. Now that's what DeBoer has going for him. The culture at Alabama is really good. So,
well, that was because of Saban. I love DeBoer. You already know my thoughts on DeBoer and the hire of him. I love what he did at Washington. And if you ever listen to him, I listened to him 2 or 3 games. Everything he said, I would have been all on board as a player. I loved his culture at UW. This is not a debate about DeBoer and BV here.
Hey, by the way, the ones on here that are saying that they'll ride with BV no matter until the ball drops and they fall off. Listen, guys, you think Texas is going to be okay with 8-4 in the SEC? Heck no. OU shouldn't be either. Texas A&M isn't. OU shouldn't be. Missouri's probably not okay at 8-4, and that's Missouri.
Mark says Riley didn't recruit in the vital positions for 5 years prior to him leaving. So here's the deal, and I agree that we can talk all we want about the cupboard being bare. Okay, there were players, but they didn't recruit at a high. Lincoln Riley had not been recruiting at a high level with Grinch on defensive side of the ball. Eric, he hadn't. That's a fact. OU didn't lose anything offensively with BV either. The offense was as good, if not better, when BV was the head coach with Levy than it was with Lincoln Riley. That wasn't the issue. It was defense. Have you watched Alex Grinch at USC? They couldn't tackle either. Poor coaching. Some of these guys hadn't been coached in 3 to 5 years of football. That's my point. When I say Bear, I mean that. No coaching on the defensive side of the ball. There wasn't any. And then he made a mistake. He brought in Roof. And like someone said on there earlier, he said, hey, you're done. What do you mean, yes, they did? Because he's putting a new system in, BB. That's very difficult.
Hey, Eric, listen. It's a totally new system. You can't make massive in 1 year. You can't. I mean, guys, have you watched USC football and Alex Grinch's defense last year? Okay. I understand where Eric's trying to come from here, but it was a complete overhaul on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, complete overhaul.
Jay, they were playing totally a different scheme with not as many guys.
And by the way, I'll say this. the fact that David Agwebu kept his position that year, I think BV was like, man, we got major issues. We got to be a lot better in recruiting. I think he knew. I think what the players they had there, and Chief T-Bird said it earlier. That's what they've done, though. Recruiting wise, they've gotten better players. They've recruited better on the defense side of the ball. Now, though, you do. To me, this is it, man. This year is so big for Brent Venables on defense. You cannot this year make a small jump. If you make a small, tiny jump on defense, I think it's bad. With everybody you got, supposedly guys that are really good. Now, you got to make a big jump, in my opinion.
Now
you have to.
Hey, I will say this. Eric does know football because Eric's on the Discord and like I've said before, has a lot of good.
Very knowledgeable guy.
Has a lot of stats. I think what Eric is saying, I don't want to put words in Eric's mouth, but is hold your horses a little, or also saying, hey, there hasn't been a lot of proof yet, and there hasn't. It's just I have some belief that what I've seen from BV in the 2 years on the improvements that have been made, I think with the talent and the improvements and decisions that have been made in the staff, I think this should very well be their best season.
And Dalpos, it should be in 25 because right now you should be better every year. That's the direction you should be going. With the talent you got coming in, you should be trying to get better every year.
They're always trying to get better.
Okie Lawn says Lincoln's offense runs circles around Levy's offense. Lincoln wasn't a great head coach. He's an elite OC. Call me crazy.
Hey, Okie Lawn, you can say that. And yeah, first off, guys named Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray, pretty good quarterbacks. Second of all, Levy's offense was ranked as good as Lincoln Riley's. Facts. With not as good a quarterback. Facts. Not as good of running backs. Facts.
Elite, probably not, but Kennedy Brooks was pretty dang good. He wasn't elite like
Chief. Eric said we should be 10-2, but he thinks they're going to be 8-4 because of the offensive line.
Guys, keep the comments nice. Let's go. Let's not be bashing everybody. His offense did kind of go down each year. And yeah, Ramondre was a good back. That's true.
Eric, I can get behind you and say, hey, there's question marks. I don't have any issue if you were to say there's question marks. There are question marks. There's question marks at offensive line. There's question marks across the board in some areas with the coaching. But, okay, and Clark, do not I think you're talking about the viewers, because if you're calling me a sunshine pumper, you're wrong. But listen, here's where I'll disagree with you, Eric. Okay, here's where I'll disagree with you. While in one statement you can say, yeah, there's some question marks. On the other side, you can say, okay, there's also been some consistent improvement in some areas that we should expect to continue. Why would we not think they would continue? The guys are all back. They've been in the system for multiple years. I mean, that's a fact. The defense, every one of them are back. And it's the third year in the system. They should be better.
I agree with Purple. I think Sawcheck's going to have a great year. I really do.
I do too.
But a lot of it depends on the O-line. And like Chief T-Bird, I agree the O-line is a question mark.
It was statistically Dalpost 83. It was statistically.
Let me say this, guys, and for I am probably the least sunshine pumper of anybody. And Jeremy, you know, Arnold, I've been hesitant on, right? Okay. 8-4. If the ones on here that are saying 8-4, if you're going to lose 4 games, that means either you're going to lose every single road game basically in conference play, or you're going to lose to a team you should beat at home.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. And what Eric says here is because they are playing an elite schedule, if they can lose to Kansas, they can lose to Auburn. And I'll say this, Eric, if they can beat Texas, they can beat Ole Miss.
Yeah, but I think the Texas thing is because it's a rivalry, dude. I mean,
they beat Texas last year, Jay.
I know
Everyone
they
was
did.
high on OU last year when they beat
It's
Texas.
a rivalry game,
Things
dude.
happened last year.
It's a rivalry game.
Sooner Cowboys 7-5 to 10-2. This team is not going 7-5 unless there's major injuries, specifically at the quarterback position.
And Kim, listen, you're not wrong here, but let me say this. You're not wrong in saying that. But at the same time, guys, last year, I don't know who to blame, but Bill Beatemo didn't get the 5 guys that played together till what, game 5 or 6? He was running Savion Byrd out there when the season started. So they didn't figure it out last year till halfway through the season, and that was costly.
Yeah. Mark said his doubts are at running back. And I mean, we got to see more than one guy. Steven, I get the point. There are question marks. No one's denying it. There's question marks galore. But, I mean, no one's going to know until next year. We'll see.
Yeah. I mean,
5 weeks to prepare for Texas also. Yeah, Texas.
Okay. And Kim, this is also my point, though. 4 went to the NFL. They should have had a better dang offensive line last year. Should they not have?
Yeah, they should have.
I mean, 3 are in the NFL draft. I mean,
Ron, looks can be deceiving, bud. Ron, here's what I would say. He's so patient, and he's just not that type of guy who's going to hit the hole immediately. He's going to wait for it, and then he showed burst last year. He showed burst. He was pretty good in the open field.
And this is a very good point, and I think maybe Purple or Mess said it earlier too, Jen Kane. There are question marks for other teams too. Missouri has question marks.
But
Alabama has question marks. So, I mean, Tennessee's got a freshman quarterback, so just like Arnold. So, basically.
What did OU finish last year, Jay? 13 or 12?
They weren't
going into the bowl game. What was OU?
They wouldn't have made the playoff.
Right. They were pretty much right on the verge last year with last year's defense.
Hey, Okie, who would you have gotten? Let me ask you that. Who would you have picked for the OC?
Sooner fan. I didn't say it because no excuses. Sooner fan, I said it to say they were on the verge last year. And in my opinion, the quarterback's better and the defense is going to be significantly better. So we should be. Now, the schedule's harder, yes.
And Kim's right. Half the SEC has new quarterbacks. Georgia's the only expected elite team. Our opportunity is wide open to come in and give some beatdowns. I mean, that's true, but
go back and watch SEC Mike. SEC Mike, who is in the know in the SEC, said the defenses haven't been world beaters last year.
No, they haven't been as good lately. I would agree with that.
So you can score points. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a fun chat. I will say this. Listen, I can scream and yell all the time. Jay said this last night. I don't have any hard feelings toward any person on here. It's everyone has their own take, and to each their own. That's fine. It's fun to chat about. Time will tell on all this, guys. Time will tell.
And Eric, I understand where you're coming from on here. I've been hesitant with Jackson Arnold and a new offensive scheme and a patchwork offensive line. I am too. I don't think any of us on here, though, will know anything in at least till the spring. We got to see what happens in the spring game early on. It's all talk. Hey,
Okie Lawn guy.
I'm asking. No, Okie Lawn. Anyone but Latrell.
Give us a name.
Give me a name.
And Okie Lawn guy, let me say this. Anyone but Latrell, are you one of the fans that say, well, Latrell's about – he hasn't even done anything. Let's see what the –
He could be a bad hire. He could be.
Go look at North Carolina. Go look at Arizona when he was there. All of them. He's had a very good offense. And by the way, I think the continuity was one thing good to keep Jackson all around.
Hey, you think Nico chokes up a little this year, or does he stay? I think, and I'm saying the same thing about Arnold, that he's going to have a couple of games where he struggles. I think Nico will have that too because he's such a young quarterback that, in fact, I would say when he comes to Norman, I think Brent Venables confused. Brent Venables is pretty good about that. And I think maybe a couple turnovers there. Just say that.
And I also say that
protest, SEC.
Here's why I do like Luttrell, not just for the continuity, for the physicality and intentionality he's going to bring about physical nature. Let's be honest, everybody. One of the big things, one of the big issues all Sooner fans have had about the OU Sooner football team the last 5-7 years is they're not physical enough. That's been the common thread every year. OU can't play with these big dogs. They're not physical enough. Seth Luttrell, that's what he's going to bring, him and Beatenbow together. Go back and look at it, Okie Lawn guy, whatever. Go back and look at it. Hey, maybe he's not a head coach, Okie Lawn guy. He improved everyone he was with. Agree, Gary. Agree. Jeez.
Well,
hey, plus, if he has a bad year next year, bash him, Okie Lawn guy. You haven't even watched him coach a game. And by the way, I want to go back one last time, Jay, to the comment I think Eric made about, patchwork offensive line, new quarterback, new scheme. How'd that team do? How did that offense perform against a top 15 team? The offense. 600 yards!
What are you talking about?
600 yards of offense with a patchwork offensive line that's going to be way more patchwork than what we're going to see this fall. That offensive line in the bowl game was way more patched up than what we're going to see in the fall. 600 yards. Fact. Michael, fact.
That's a great point. I'm trying to get back to that question from T-Bird Hunter. If you can pull, there it is. Thanks, T-Bird, for the soup. Appreciate that so much. He says if our 24 schedule was this past season, it would have been scary, but all those teams lost a lot. I like our chances. And that's true. You are going up against some teams that did lose a lot. And this was the problem, too. He threw the ball too many times. Don't you agree with that?
Yeah, they could have run the ball more. I'm not going to sit here. It's 52 minutes in and sit here and debate the entire bowl game about how Jackson Arnold completed 56 or 55% of his passes. I was just saying your point of patchwork offensive line and new quarterback did pretty well in the bowl game, and they played well enough to win.
Here's the reality, guys. Everybody that's on this chat, everybody that's on here, we're going to be talking about this for, I don't know how many more days it is till kickoff, but we're all going to be talking about this leading up to the season. And we're going to probably change our opinions as you get close to the season after spring game and you see guys and some guys leaving, some guys come in, whatever. Nobody knows. Nobody on here knows what they're going to throw out there at the beginning of next year. Nobody knows what Jackson Arnold's going to look like in game one. Nobody knows what Seth Luttrell's offense is going to look like in day one. Nobody. Jeremy, you don't, I don't, nobody on here. We can have our opinions, and that's great. And that's why I love this community. We can talk about it and chat about it, have our opinions, and move on. Appreciate it, guys. Appreciate y'all joining. And, hey, Chief T-Bird, thanks so much for the super night. Appreciate that. Eric, appreciate you always with the lively conversations. Big Orange,
Mark,
always for joining us on this OU channel, talking SEC. Appreciate it. Hopefully you're coming down to the Palace on the Prairie this season, Big Orange.
Yeah, hopefully you are. And Mark as well, others that are on here. Jay, there's so many on here every night. We really appreciate it. Dad is out of ICU, so that's a praise. He is now in a room and recovering, and maybe we'll go back to a rehab facility next week. But thanks. Appreciate it. And we'll get after it again tomorrow night. That's what we do on the Sooner Surge. We get after it, talking Sooner sports. Thank you all. See you tomorrow night. Boomer.